Good morning, this is Ken Long from Tortoise Capital Management, May 29th, with a review of the weekly Tortoise
but you can only receive one
strategy
Medal of
report.
Honor per lifetime, and so that's
we
what he
have
got in
a
1971 from President Nixon.
bullish
That's not all
normal
he got,
market
He received
that
Purple
is
Hearts, 8 of them.
in neutral
There were
condition on an annual
silver
look-back
stars, 4
using
bronze
weekly
stars,
RSI,
2 distinguished
and
service crosses.
at fair value on a
It's believed
10-day
Bob
look-back
Howard was
using the
most heavily
10-day
decorated
and
American
DX.
veteran of
Percent
the
stretch
modern
above the
era.
200-day
Here we
moving
go.
average is
He was a proud product of
7.51%, which is
Alabama,
bullish.
and he let you know
Coated
it. He
yellow,
was a
so it's
Green
been
Beret, Special Forces.
it
While
is now
technically
below
he fought
average
in the
compared to the
Vietnam
last
War,
180
he fought
days.
in Laos and Cambodia,
The slope of the
and all
50-day
kinds
moving
of other
average has
places
improved to
where we were once
0.29%, which is
told
neutral,
US forces weren't
and
fighting at
is
the
actually an
time.
improvement
In
over the
one
course of this past week.
54-month
ADX
period,
14
he
at
was wounded
13.5
14
is still
times.
weak,
He
and
served
we'll see that the
5
market
tours
is
of
perfectly
duty in
balanced
Vietnam, and
on a
in
number
recent years,
of
he loved his
decision
trips to
points
Iraq
over
and
multiple time
Afghanistan
frames. So we have a
to
market
visit
that
the
is
men and
perfectly
women in uniform
on the
in
tipping
fight
point right
there.
now.
Bob had 2
And the case
master's
for long
degrees,
and short
but for the most part,
can
he
be
was a
made equally
soldier
well.
with only one employer.
ATR percentage
When he
has leveled
retired
off at
from service back in
1.14%, which is the
2006,
high
as a
range
full
of
colonel,
normal
he'd
using
been an employee
ATR
of the
percentage.
U.S. government in all for 50 years. That old expression, they don't make them like
we
him
have
anymore, well, they don't.
no change in the monthly
Bob
and
Howard
quarterly
died today. He was
rebalancing
70
programs,
years
no
old.
change in
Cancer did what the
ETF2
enemy never could do. It got him and
theoretical
brought him
model.
down.
The theoretical
He leaves
exposure is at
behind 3
0%,
children,
so
several
there are no new
grandchildren,
buys,
a lot
and
of
the
us who
actual
were
model
proud to be his
portfolio
friend.
is holding
In addition,
4
Bob
positions
Howard
for
leaves
40%
behind a
exposure.
grateful nation.
We had a
We
terrific
have a brief special
week
word
of
tonight
research
about a very
and live
special
trading
man
this week,
whose story
and
you
I'll be
should
writing
know
a
about,
book of
in
essays
part because his story will
based
be
on
told for
the
generations
recommended
to come.
topics and insights
Robert
from
Howard
the
might have been
traders
the
as
toughest
part of our
American
weekly
alive
after-action review.
while he was among
Some
us.
fantastic
Bob
ideas
was the
developed.
only man ever to be nominated for the Medal of Honor
Here are
3
just a handful
times
of them.
for 3 separate acts of staggering heroism in combat. But you can only receive 1 Medal of Honor per lifetime, and so that's what he got in 1971 from President Nixon.
Okay,
That's
we'll now look at
He
the
received 8 Purple
health
Hearts,
check
8 of them.
for the market.
There were silver stars, 4
And
bronze stars,
we have
2 distinguished service
price
crosses.
sitting
It's believed
right
Bob
on the
Howard
10-day
was the
moving
most
average, which
heavily
is pulled back
decorated
to the
American
50-day moving
veteran
average.
of
So we
the
have a
modern era,
convergence right here
period.
of price,
He was a proud
10-day and
product of
50-day moving
Alabama, and he
average. We're
let
still
you know
almost
it. He was a
8%
Green
above
Beret,
the
Special
200-day.
Forces. While technically he fought in the
The
Vietnam
horizontal
War,
purple
he
line is
fought
the
in
previous
Laos and
swing high.
Cambodia and
The
all
dotted
kinds of
purple
other
line
places where we
is
were once
the
told US forces
resistance
weren't fighting
line,
at the
which
time.
used to be
In one
the previous
54-month
swing high.
period, he
So that's
was
2 swing
wounded
highs ago. You can see a
14
head and
times.
shoulders
He served
potentially
5 tours
forming
of
here.
duty in Vietnam, and
But
in
we're
recent
right at
years,
that
he
price
loved
level
his
now,
trips to
where
Iraq and Afghanistan
we
to
were
visit
resisted
the men and
before, and you
women
can
in
see
uniform and in the
the
fight
amount
there.
of sideways
Bob
action
had
right
2
around that
master's
key
degrees, but
134
for the
price
most part,
level.
he was a soldier with only one employer.
The horizontal
When he
red
retired
line, the
from
first one,
service back in
represents a
2006,
5%
as a full
pullback
colonel,
from
he'd been an employee of the
the
US
previous
government
swing
in
high.
all for 50
Between the
years.
purple and the red
That
line
old expression,
represents
they don't make 'em like him
the
anymore.
noise
Well, they
area,
don't. Bob
and
Howard
it actually
died today.
holds
He
the
was
previous
70
channel
years
pretty
old.
well.
Cancer did what the enemy
The
never
black
could do.
horizontal
It got
line
him
is
and brought
the
him down.
30-day
He leaves
regression
behind
line.
3
The
children,
outer black
several
lines
grandchildren,
represent
a lot of us who
the
were
channel
proud to be his
formed by the
friend.
maximum
In addition,
excursion
Bob Howard leaves
from that
behind
look-back period,
a
which
grateful
was
nation.
which
We
occurred
have a
on
brief special
April,
word tonight
looks like
about a
the
very
19th.
special man whose story you should know about,
so
in part because his
we have
story will be told for
Williams
generations
percent
to come.
R10
Robert
has just
Howard
come out
might
of
have been the
oversold
toughest
conditions and is
American alive
hovering right at fair
while he was
value at
among
minus
us.
50.
Bob was the only
Or, sorry,
man
minus
ever
41.
to be nominated for the Medal of Honor
On
3
a
times
annual
for
basis,
3
Williams
separate
percent
acts
R
of
is showing
staggering
over
heroism in
bought,
combat.
comfortably
But you can
overbought.
only receive 1 Medal of Honor per
And then on the
lifetime,
ADX,
so that's what he got
you
in
can see
1971
that
from President
it's still
Nixon.
below
That's
15,
not all he got, though. He
and
received 8
minus
Purple
DI
Hearts,
got
8
weaker,
of them.
and plus
There were
DI got
silver
stronger based on the
stars,
buying
4 bronze
pressure
stars,
of the
2
last 3 days.
distinguished
So
service
what we have
crosses.
is a market
It's believed
that
Bob
is
Howard was the most
absolutely
heavily
perfectly
decorated
balanced
American
on a
veteran
decision
of the
point.
modern era.
Right in the middle of the random noise
He was a
area,
proud
right at a
product of
previous
Alabama, and
resistance
he let
level.
you know it. He was a Green Beret,
The
Special
10-day
Forces.
has pulled back to the
Technically,
50.
he
We have
fought
a
in the
very tight,
Vietnam War. He fought in
volatile
Laos and
doji day,
Cambodia,
or
and all kinds of
unvolatile
other
doji
places
day,
where
excuse
we
me.
were once told
That's the narrowest
US
range of the
forces
last
weren't
4.
fighting at the
And we have an aging bull, and it's been tested to the downside 1, 2, 3 times. And you can see a channel if you were to connect these higher highs, lower highs, excuse me. Prices come right back to the top of that declining price channel of the last 20. And the lower lows are making a nice tight channel in here. So the market moved from an expected area of where the next lower low would be to the next higher high. So we're right exactly where it can either, with equal strength, break out and go back up and test 137, or fall through 131 and then 130, and then become a correction in a normal bullish market. So that's why I'm saying we're looking at a market here that is perfectly poised for a breakout in either direction. With a tight doji, a straddle option here would be extremely powerful. Now, what adds conviction to this idea that there will be a breakout next week is that from the research we did this weekend, I can say that the 2 days on either side of the end of month contain most of the price improvement in the Dow Jones Industrial 30s. And if we use that as a proxy for the large market over long periods of time, holding through the end of the holding before the end of the month, through the end of the month, and for 3 days afterwards is a pretty good strategy. And that says that there's a higher probability of directionality at this time of the month. And so, with a tight doji on Friday, an aging bull, this is a perfect time to see, 5 to 8% move north or south, and we have the price levels that will help us figure out which way it's going. 134, if it gets through there, will be powerful move up, at least to 137, and then a breakdown below 131 and a half, the swing low, and then 131. And then 130 would be the gateway to a test of 125. So we're going to have some directionality here in the next week, too, and we should be prepared for a breakout from the sideways market.
Bob Howard died today. He was 70 years old.
Looking at ETF2, the top 10 ETFs on a regional basis, they're all negative on a 5-week rate of return. Not surprising, having just seen that market health check. And that brings the
We have a brief special word tonight about
model portfolio theoretical exposure to 0% invested, 100% cash.
His story will be told for generations to come.
Last week it was 37. The SPY is better than the rest of the world, 64 compared to 56, so the U.S. is still favored right now. Inside the U.S., it's mid-caps at 71, followed by the smalls at 67, large caps at 64, and then the technology at 60. Strongest two indexes are mids and smalls. Weakest two are ILF at 50 and EWJ at Japan at 38.
It's believed Bob Howard was the most heavily decorated American.
World market model, small cap growth is really distinguishing itself in the U.S., followed by a little band here of the mids and smalls, and then all the large caps and then any value have been lagging. Commodities made a nice rebound. Silver has, looks like it, in my view, has gotten out of its panic mode. So it's gone from boom to bust to sideways to incremental buying once more, and is actually holding up pretty well. Gold was much less volatile, but it's at the top. Nice moves in commodities this week. Oil has come back from the dead, although it's only rated at 46 and in the red. U.S. real estate has been very strong. In the Asian side of the world, we still have leadership in Malaysia and Singapore, but China and India continue to lag, and Asia less Japan weak as well. On the European side, Switzerland, Sweden, and the UK have the strength, and the rest of them suffering. And We've actually had some improvement in Latin America and emerging markets, although they're still below average. They've gone from red to yellow. In the business sectors, financials are still a drag on the market. Industrials made a little bit of a comeback, as did energy, but the defensive sectors of staples and healthcare globally are still dominating. Do yourself a favor and take a look at symbol XLP, which is the sector spider for consumer staples, and you're going to see as straight a line up as you could want. It's made a nice pullback, and so if we get strength in this market going forward, there's like a triple screen or channeling system entry still available on XLP. So do your own diligence, but consider XLP. The Swiss franc has been just exceptional.
He was a proud product of Alabama, and he let you know it. He was a Green Beret, Special Forces.
Watching.
While technically he fought in the Vietnam War, he fought in Laos and Cambodia and all kinds of other.
I should also say before I leave that chart, Swiss franc has an inverse correlation to the U.S. Equity market at times. It's quite compelling, so you might want to take a look at the two of those on a comparison chart as a closet hedging strategy.
To visit the men and women in uniform and in the fight there.
Inside the 100 by 200 crossover system, we have long-term health, mostly in the U.S., with the exception of tech, financials, and basic materials. The globals are generally weaker than the U.S., and the defensive sectors are looking the strongest. And you have some reference data here. If you want to look at 1 month or 1 week ATR percentage.
He leaves behind
as you can see, the a monthly ATR generally is about twice what the weekly ATR has been.
We have a brief special word tonight about a very special man.
Top 30
story you should know about,
ETFs from the ETF2 database, dominated by the defensive sectors. Telecom has a large utility component. U.S. Telecom has a large utility component, which accounts for its stability and its strength. And then you'll see biotech, Switzerland, more biotech, healthcare, consumer staples, XLP, XRT, retail, healthcare, small cap growth in IJT.
There were civil silver stars, 4 bronze stars, 2 distinguished service crosses. It's believed Bob Howard was the most
U.S. real estate,
decorated American
medical,
veteran of the
mid-caps,
modern era,
mid-cap growth, more real estate. So you can see the defensive sectors, mid-caps,
while technically he fought in the Vietnam War, he
real
fought
estate,
in Laos and Cambodia and all
healthcare
kinds of other places
are
where
dominating.
we were once told U.S. forces weren't fighting at the time.
Most liquid ETFs by daily dollar volume, and then those that are highlighted in green are the ones that are exceptionally volatile intraday and make good shorter-term trading targets. Silver and gold remain at 5 and 6.
In uniform and in the fight there. Bob had 2 master's degrees, but for the most part he was a soldier with only one
you can see just how dominant
that's
becoming in second position compared to the tradability of the Qs. Really, the small caps are really getting a lot of attention here because of the E-mini, and it gives you a way to get a little more volatility intraday, so it's at 1.74% compared to 1.1 in the spiders, and even 1.26 in the Q. So Russell E-mini is definitely worth your attention. All right, that's the weekend report from Ken Long on Memorial Day edition. Shake the soldier's hand today and count your blessings. Enjoy your freedom.
Robert
Have a
Howard
good and
might
safe
have been
weekend.
the toughest American alive while he was